We also got to see many children who were going through hell in the name of their education. What exactly is wrong? Why are children undergoing suffering? I went on a journey of discovery and I learnt it by myself. I was helped by some sources.
And this as an educator you were learning?
Yes, as an educator.
Okay.
I take them on a journey where at the beginning they don't know that they are walking on this adventure because they're going to discover Newton's law of gravitation. Children discover it by themselves. Just as Newton discovered in his own way, our children discover it in their own way using various tools of mathematics. And this is exactly why children with a lot of knowledge have not learned how to think. They are told what to think and what to do with it. In that, they look very clever. These days, when you hear the word age appropriate, it feels like a buzzword. Anybody uses it. It's become so common that it's really lost its inner meaning. All you have to do is to compare X-rays of the hands of a 5-year-old child and the hands of a 7-year-old child. Humanizing Education for Freedom. Welcome to a whole new world of education.
Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Humanizing Education for Freedom. So I'll be your host for this episode. So my name is Srini. I'm a parent of TATVA and I have 2 daughters studying in 10th and 7th grade respectively. So when I listened to the previous episodes of Education for Children, there are many questions that I had which I wanted answers. So I approached Bala sir and he invited me to host this episode and ask questions to him directly. So that is how I landed here. And I'm really looking forward to have this experience. Thank you, Bala sir, for having me.
Thank you, Srini, for coming over. When you first approached me saying you have questions, the first thing that struck me was, this is exactly what I was looking forward to, that parents like you engage with the episodes and come back with the questions you have so that we can explore the questions surrounding this beautiful education that we are building, what we call humanizing education. And I do really look forward to the conversation with you. My previous conversations with you definitely are very encouraging. I would definitely be happy to address what you bring to me today.
Great. So I just want to set the context. So I have a set of questions that I wanted to ask you. And also I've collected some of the questions that the parents community had. So I have that list of questions with me. So, and I'm hoping that we could go through that as part of this episode.
Definitely, Srini. As I said, answering questions that are on parents' minds when they experience this education as parents and when they experience the ideas that we are bringing forward to them in this podcast series. I mean, that's exactly my purpose in starting this podcast series itself.
Absolutely. So I would like to kickstart this episode with a very fundamental question so that it can help those who are not aware of what you do as an educator. So this is how it goes. So what made you walk this path in the first place?
I presume by that you mean this path of humanizing education that we are trying to create, which your children are also going through along with other children. That's a long story, but it goes a long way back, about 25 years, at least 17 years ago, when I was in the business of test prep. And we had so many beautiful experiences with children trying to move ahead with their careers. But at the same time, we could see, by we I mean Vidya and I, we were both running that setup together, just as we're running TATVA today. And we could see, we had many experiences, many interesting, because we were dealing with children, ambitious, aspiring children, trying to make something good out of their lives. But at the same time, we also got to see many children who were going through hell because of their education, in the name of their education. There was something that we could see that was fundamentally wrong with the education, what children were receiving in the name of an education. And that's when the thought struck both of us that maybe we should get into education. And that's how we launched TATVA as a small preschool so many years ago. And then along the way, we were searching for not answers but questions as well. And for us, the question in our minds was, what exactly is wrong? Why are children undergoing suffering when they should actually be happy that they're going through an education? And that was when we met this path called, that I'm now calling Humanizing Education, what people in the world would recognize as Waldorf education. I am calling it humanizing because that's what it does. It really strengthens and enhances the human aspect of the human child, as against the dehumanizing influence of the education that most children receive today. This, in that context, is what I like to call education that humanizes. And that's how we got into this journey, trying to do something, work with children in a way that enables them to become what their destiny intended them to be. So that's how we got into this.
So when you said suffering, right, so why do you think it is happening? Or what is that you meant when you said the children are suffering?
Actually, what we saw was children at a certain age, typically at around grade 7 or grade 8, they're very enthusiastic. They just want to meet the world. There is a lot about the world that they want to understand. But by the time they come to college, even end of schooling, they're very dispirited, disinterested in learning. The only thing they seem to be interested in is gaming the system and getting the scores and getting the job or getting the admission. That's all they were interested in. It was very disappointing to see children with so much enthusiasm, starting this journey with the kind of enthusiasm they started with, being reduced to that condition. And this was almost the general condition of most children who were leaving school and going to college, or leaving college and going to a higher education. And that's what bothered us. And that's why Tattva.
So when you said children are disinterested, so when you discuss amongst our parents, we all feel that the system is broken. Am I right in thinking that the system is broken? Can you help me understand?
Okay. I would like to approach this question with an example. So, you're an engineer, right? So am I. And so, we all learned science when we were in school, in high school, right? One of the things we learned in that science is this thing called Newton's law of gravitation. Now, we all learned it as a law.
Yes.
We all learned many interesting ways to apply it and see what we can do with it. But have you ever wondered why you call it a law of gravitation? Because a law is something like an inescapable regularity that nothing can escape. So have you ever wondered, did you discover why it is called a law of nature?
I'd say no. Just because I was told that it is a law, I've just followed that it's a law.
So that is a good instance. Here is one of the most momentous discovery in man's journey of understanding the physical world. And so many of us, almost all of us, hold it to be true because we were told so. So we just believe.
Right.
So one of the most momentous scientific ideas is living in most of us as a belief whose truth we are not certain about because we never discovered it. Our teachers told us and we believe it. So this was a situation I too was in when I started this journey and when I had to take this idea to children as part of their curriculum. So as an educator working on the principle of humanizing education, I had to ask myself, do I really know it before I stand in front of children and introduce them to it and help them come to know it.
Okay.
This was not part of my education, the education that I received, but I had to walk this journey. So I went on a journey of discovery and I learnt it by myself. I was helped by some sources.
And this as an educator you were learning?
Yes, as an educator.
Okay.
In fact, I learned that Newton had his own way by which he discovered this law. He too discovered this law as a logical corollary, as a logical extension of what we all know as Kepler's laws of planetary motion. So he had his own way, and I stumbled upon another way, which I then understood. And now, today, when I take this idea to very excited 16, 17-year-old children, I take them on a journey, an adventure, where at the beginning they don't know that they are walking on this adventure because they're going to discover Newton's law of gravitation.
Okay.
It starts as, here is my teacher bringing something interesting. It looks interesting to begin with.
Okay.
He's asked a question. He's brought the fact that there is this thing called Kepler's laws of planetary motion. And then we walk on a long mathematical adventure, at the end of which emerges this regularity which says that the force exerted by the sun on the earth or by the earth on the sun varies as described in what is called Newton's law of gravitation. Children discover it by themselves. Just as Newton discovered in his own way, our children discover it in their own way using various tools of mathematics that they gather as part of their education in mathematics.
Okay.
So this is the whole point, that many laws that children can discover by themselves, they must be allowed and enabled to discover by themselves. Our system of education doesn't do it. And this is exactly why children with a lot of knowledge have not learned how to think. They are told what to think and what to do with it. In that, they look very clever. They give the appearance of people who know a lot, who understand a lot. But they do not know how to think, which is because they have not learned why it is a law in the first place. And this is the difference. And this is why your statement that the system is broken is actually quite valid.
So it feels very nice to kind of know and realize that there is a path for our children to keep engaged and interested in subjects. So moving on, I remember you talking about age-appropriate learning in previous episodes. But if I look around, age-appropriateness has become a buzzword in today's world. Every curriculum talks about age-appropriateness. Can you explain what is age-appropriateness and why is it so important?
Actually, these days when you hear the word age-appropriate, it feels like a buzzword. Anybody uses it. It's become so common that it's really lost its inner meaning. And if you look carefully, the devil is always in the details. And when you look at the details, you will see that all these people calling their approaches age appropriate, what they mean is that the design of the particular content they are taking to the children and the methods they are adopting to introduce that content, those are what they claim are age appropriate. What they are ignoring, which is what humanizing education accounts for, that it is not enough for the specific content or concept or the methods to be age appropriate. The content itself must be age appropriate because the child is a developing human being. The faculties are evolving. What a child would easily do at a certain age, the same child would not be capable of doing at a much younger age. You would have noticed it. There is an age at which a child starts walking, or before that, a child starts crawling. So there is an age, and likewise, as they grow up, different faculties emerge at different points in time, and only then does various content become appropriate. So what humanizing education means by age appropriate or developmentally appropriate is for the content that we are taking to children itself.
So can you give an example so that we can understand a little better?
Sure. Actually, one example is right on top of my mind, and that is the idea of introducing writing of letters and numbers to children when they are in the kindergarten years. It is common, most kindergartens, all mainstream kindergartens, introduce writing letters and numbers to children when they are in the kindergarten years. While humanizing education, on the other hand, waits for these children to turn 6 and come into grade 1 before introducing letters and numbers. This is the whole point. One of them is developmentally appropriate, what humanizing education does, and the mainstream approach is developmentally inappropriate. Why do I say that? Actually, science backs my statement. All you have to do is to compare X-rays of the hands of a 5-year-old child and the hands of a 7-year-old child. You will find significant differences in the development of the musculoskeletal structure, especially the skeletal structure, which would be visible in the X-rays. At a very basic level, the proportions would be different. Plain sight would tell you the proportions are different. That is no different from our village school headmasters saying that if you can't hold your ear with your hand, go back and return next year for admission into grade 1. So likewise, when you look at these X-rays, show more differences. The 5-year-old's hand shows bones that are still developing. There are gaps where the bones aren't fully formed. The bones are shorter. And there are even cartilages which are yet to ossify to become bones. So the 5-year-old's hand is still developing, and it has to reach the developmental readiness of the hand of a 7-year-old before that child can actually hold a pencil or a crayon in the 3-point grip and trace specific intricate shapes as shown by their educator. This is why writing as an activity is developmentally appropriate when the child comes to grade 1, turns 6 and comes to grade 1, but it is developmentally inappropriate when the same child is in the kindergarten years.
It's so nice to understand that there is a science behind that when we say that the writing has to be introduced at a certain age, definitely not in kindergarten. But being a parent of TATVA, I know that my 2 daughters never wrote or never introduced to writing in the kindergarten age. But I never knew the reason till now. And when the question was asked, I never knew what is the appropriate answer. But this again takes me to an interesting observation that I had last week, where we had a family gathering and one of the parents were narrating their kindergarten child story. And coincidentally, that school also didn't entertain, or they didn't allow the children to practice writing. And these parents took their child out from that school and got admission into a mainstream franchise-driven model institution, if I may call so. And they were saying that how important it is for their child to develop that skill of writing in kindergarten so that they are ready. The child is ready when the child moves into first grade. And I couldn't answer that clearly. And now having heard you, it kind of makes more sense. And it's so kind of, the irony is that parent are highly educated, well affluent, and in spite of that, they continue to think that writing has to happen in kindergarten.
Actually, for a lot of us, all these are passed down, and it's what everyone does. And challenging what the majority is doing and walking a different path is actually very difficult. Many of us, I would say, carry many such orthodoxies in our mind, which tell us that this is what you have to do, and breaking it is actually not very easy. And that's what you mentioned as an instance is actually an example of that.
Very true. So can you give any other example covering a different age?
Oh, my head is bursting with examples, but I'd like to start with a question to you. Srini, do you love your dosa, especially your mother's dosa, what she would make when you were a child?
Now I see that I'm heading into trouble. So before I answer that question, let me clarify that the answer is going to be true for both my mom's dosa and my wife's dosa.
Oh, of course.
So that way I don't get into trouble when I head back home. So having said that, so being at home, if I don't have dosa for 2 days, I get homesick. That much I love my dosa.
So have you ever wondered why your mom and now your wife adds urad dal, what we in Tamil call ulundu, to the rice while making the batter?
All I could say is I really enjoyed the crispy dosa, never bothered to get into the details.
And this is a question I'm getting into. Why is the dosa crisp? Why is a well-browned dosa the crispiest dosa you could have? This too is a part of science. And this science is something, say, children in humanizing education meet when they come to grade 8. They have a block called food chemistry. And in that block, they study different food substances, fundamental food substances, which is basically carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. And one of the things they explore is the response of these different categories of food substances to heat. Each of them reacts in a different way. And the way proteins react tells you why the dosa is made crisp, and actually why the dosa even comes out as one whole disc, plate, thin plate. It's because of the protein that you have added to it. It is the protein that cooks in a specific way, allows the carbohydrate in it also to get cooked in the steam that is produced when you heat it, and it comes out as a wonderful, crisp dosa for you to enjoy. And for children, the goal in such an exercise is to be keen observers of the response of each of those substances to heating. This being keen observers is fundamental. It's a fundamental faculty that has to have been born in the children before they can engage with science. And what do children do with what they observe? They need to apply a second faculty called causality, or the ability to view the world in terms of cause and effect and link them up together. Causes and effects must be linked them up to form theories of science. So these two faculties, the faculty of being keen observers and the faculty of causality, are not present in very little children, like say children of age 8, which is when they are in grade 2, which is when conventional curriculum introduces science to children. Humanizing education makes science wait outside the classroom for when children turn 12, when they are in their 12th year, and it is only when they turn 12 and enter grade 6 is it allowed to enter the classroom. Till then it waits at the doorsteps. It is then allowed to come into the classroom and be introduced to children as a subject. So this idea of developmentally appropriate education is a fundamental aspect of humanizing education, which is why your children too would have waited till they come to grade 6 to meet science, because the teacher is actually not making your children wait. She made science wait till it became the developmentally appropriate content for your children.
Wow. So I just want to double click on what you just said. Science waiting for the children to turn 12. It's beautiful. But are you saying that introducing science way earlier is not good for the children?
Of course, it is not good. See, when children experience through their senses, they always slowly process it into concepts. The question is not whether the concepts are formed, but whether the concepts are formed in a manner that they are living and growing in the child's being. If you go back to my episode on epistemology, I would have mentioned there that forming a concept is not the end of the story. As children have more sensory experience and then draw upon their intuition, concepts live and grow. Only concepts that live and grow are true concepts that eventually get networked with all the other concepts each child forms into a wholesome body of knowledge of the child. When instead you introduce science in grade 2, concepts go sit there in the child's being like dead wood on the forest floor. Just as the dead wood doesn't grow anymore, it gets consumed by the other creatures in the forest, as you may call them, including plants and animals. They consume it. But it doesn't become a part of the living, growing knowledge of the child. So when you introduce science too early, concepts go sit there and they prevent the real concepts from emerging. The forest floor is choked with dead wood, means that new concepts find it difficult to grow from the verdant forest floor as well. And this is a mistake that mainstream education is making when it introduces science to children when they are as young as 8, when they are in grade 2.
So, if I hear you right, so is this the reason children usually get disinterested in science and at times create aversion towards science or education in general?
I would say it's a big contributing factor. Because when things are living in them, where they are able to see no meaning or purpose, it doesn't connect with anything else. They have to hold it until they regurgitate it in an examination and get the right answers and therefore get credit for what they have said. Life is bereft of meaning. Education becomes bereft of meaning or purpose. And when that happens, you should not be surprised when children lose interest in what is brought to them as education.
So I just want to pause a second and spend few seconds on children's interest with studies. So when you told me this, I remembered of one of my observations with my elder daughter who's getting into 10th grade now. So this happened during her summer holidays a month back, where one day she and her classmate decided that they're going to work together, and they came to our home, sat in a room, and they started doing their math homework. So I was little surprised that the way they started. But what surprised me even more was they sat in one place for about 3 to 4 hours and they were deeply engrossed in the subject, unmoved, undeterred, and absolutely focused. And especially being girls, there were no chit-chats. So I just want to give the context for the viewers that these children have not gone through a formal, long duration exams or tests, similarly like what we used to have in our days, like 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours format. Maybe a small assessment that the class teacher gives in their respective class. So beyond that, I have not seen at least my child sit for such a duration. So, though I was pleasantly surprised as a father, so I have a question that what is that shift or the change that happened in these children? And more important is, as a parent, am I exaggerating what I saw or am I even hallucinating?
Okay. But before I go into giving a more elaborate response, I just want to know, was this a one shot or one day occurrence or did it take multiple days?
So I very much anticipated that to be a one day event. But very surprisingly, they continue to work for about 10 to 15 days. And more interesting was there was one other classmate who called the very next day and checked with us whether it is okay that she can come and join these girls. And this I didn't expect from a teenage girls.
That's interesting, Srini, because what you narrated gives me multiple things to talk about. First and foremost, this sudden surge of interest in a child entering grade 10. This is actually quite a natural response of a child of that age.
Okay.
That is about the age of 14, 15. And so you're talking about children who are past puberty. And as Rudolf Steiner says, their ego consciousness is incarnating in them. That is, these are children who are beginning to be more self-aware. Along with self-awareness, they are seeing the world outside as well. They're assessing themselves. They're assessing the world out there.
Okay.
And they are thinking of present and their own future in that world. So these are children who are actually asking themselves the question, what do I need to do today in order to be ready for something that I am seeking in my future? They are trying to imagine what their path of life would be now and in the future. And they're asking themselves, what do I need to do today? This is a natural response of a healthy teenager. It is not at all surprising to me. It is just their faculties, their willing, feeling and thinking coming together to take them on the journey where they meet their destiny in this life. So it's quite normal.
Okay.
The other interesting thing that you mentioned is that these children have not met any examinations before.
Right.
In fact, I have met this quite fallacious thinking, wrong thinking in the world outside, that children will not, say, wake up and take things that are good for them seriously unless you threaten them regularly with examinations. No, it's not necessary. When children see that something is good for them, when they are at the right age, they will take it up. Our task as educators and parents until that stage is holding children the right way, nurturing their interest and ongoing connection, which must be nurtured through love for the love of the children for the content or the concepts, and the love that the teacher, the interest that the teacher has, shows for the children and their healthy evolution. These two together will keep the children on the journey of striving till a day comes, typically after the age of 14, they break out.
Okay.
And these apparently miraculous things, miraculous transformations happen.
Okay.
And for me, this is not the first child about whom I'm hearing this story.
Okay.
Every now and then, there are children who show this blossoming. There are some children blossom early. But some children apparently go through a lot of difficulty. And difficulty sometimes in doing things, difficulty sometimes in finding the interest, the keenness. But whatever it is, if we hold them in a healthy way, they blossom when they decide that the time is right for them to break out.
So if I understand you correctly, each children blossom at the right time when they are ready.
Very much. It is a different time for each child. And for us as educators and parents, it is very important that we do not press panic buttons and do things that would interrupt this healthy and normal evolution of a child at this stage.
Thank you, Bala sir, for answering all these questions. And there are quite a lot of information for us as parents to digest. So while we continue to do so, I was also looking at the list of questions that I had prepared and also collected from parents. And there are quite a long way to go to cover those. And also one important topic that we wanted to cover is also the pressure from the external world in for the external exams that the children has to prepare. So I also wanted to understand how the humanizing factor comes in when it comes to the external exams as well. So but that in itself needs a separate episode altogether. So
exams, definitely, they're the elephant in the room, aren't they? So thank you, Srini, for this wonderful interaction. I mean, you just showed me that our conversations will always be interesting, and I definitely look forward to our further interaction on these questions from your heart and the hearts of various other parents. So to our viewers, this brings us to the end of this episode. And if you have any observations or questions to share with us, do email us at educationforfreedom@tatvaschool.com. Do subscribe to this podcast series by clicking on the link if you wish to get updates as and when we upload future episodes. We definitely look forward to your joining us for those as well. And if you like the work we are doing out here, do spread word about it to people for whom and for whose children you care. So until we meet again in the next episode, here's wishing you good luck, and if you're a parent, happy parenting.